Most players train hard. Elite players train smart. The difference between a player who plateaus at a decent level and one who keeps improving every single week isn't talent, and it isn't even hours on the pitch. It's the quality of what happens during those hours. Today we're breaking down the exact technical training principles that elite academies and professional clubs use to develop world-class players, and how you can apply every single one of them to your own training starting today. Part 1. Touch quality over touch quantity. The first principle elite coaches hammer into every young player is this: one perfect touch is worth more than 50 sloppy ones. Most amateur players practice by doing as many repetitions as possible, assuming volume alone builds skill. But the brain doesn't learn from repetition, it learns from quality repetition. Every touch you take in training should have a specific intention behind it. Where is this touch setting me up for? What direction am I controlling into? What's my next action after this? Elite technical training slows down to answer these questions on every single repetition, then gradually builds speed only once the movement pattern is locked in correctly. Volume without intention builds bad habits faster than it builds good ones. Part 2. The two-touch discipline drill. The single most used technical drill across elite European academies is a variation of the two-touch discipline drill, and the reason it appears everywhere from Ajax to Barcelona's youth systems is because it forces two things simultaneously: touch quality and decision speed. Here's the structure. Every time you receive the ball in this drill, you are only allowed 2 touches maximum before the ball must move. First touch sets your position and controls the ball into space. Second touch executes, pass, shoot, or drive. No more. This constraint removes the luxury of extra touches and forces your first touch to be purposeful every single time. Over weeks of consistent repetition, your first touch under pressure in real matches becomes automatic, clean, and decisive. Part 3. Pressure-based rondos. Rondos, the passing circle drill popularized by Spanish football, are one of the most misunderstood training tools at amateur level. Most players use them as a warm-up, treating them casually and accepting sloppy passes. Elite players treat every rondo as a pressure simulation. The key variable that separates an elite rondo from a casual one is the intensity of the defenders in the middle. When the defenders press with genuine aggression and purpose, the players on the outside are forced to make faster decisions, use better body shape, and play first-time passes they wouldn't otherwise attempt. The technical skill being trained isn't just passing, it's passing under duress, which is the only version of passing that actually matters in a real match. Part 4. Weak foot integration. Every elite player has a story about the moment they committed to developing their weak foot, and almost every one of them says the same thing: they wish they had started earlier. Weak foot development is the most neglected area of amateur technical training, and it's the one area that creates the biggest gap between good players and great ones. The method elite coaches use isn't complicated. It's a dedicated 15-minute block at the start of every single session, using only the weak foot for basic technical actions. Passing against a wall. Receiving and controlling. Short dribbling patterns. The consistency of that daily block, over months, is what rewires the neural pathways that make weak foot actions feel as natural as strong foot ones. There are no shortcuts, only consistent, deliberate repetition. Part 5. Game-realistic training conditions. The final principle is the one that ties everything else together. Every technical drill you practice must eventually be placed inside a game-realistic condition. This means opposition. This means decision-making. This means consequences for mistakes. A player who has perfected their first touch in isolation but falls apart under a pressing defender hasn't actually developed a match-ready skill. They've developed a training room skill. Elite academies design every drill so that technical execution is always linked to a real game scenario. The ball comes from a realistic angle. A defender applies realistic pressure. A target exists that requires a real decision. When your technical training mirrors match conditions, the transfer from training to performance stops being a gap and starts being automatic. Touch quality, 2 touch discipline, pressure rondos, weak foot development, and game realistic conditions. These aren't secrets, they're the fundamentals that every elite academy builds its entire technical program around. The players who consistently improve aren't the most naturally gifted. They're the ones who train these principles with the most consistency and the most intention. Start with one principle in your next session, and build from there. Here's a question that will separate the smart players from the rest. Before your next match, how many times do you actually scan your surroundings before receiving the ball? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments, 0, once, or twice. And if you think you already do this naturally, tell me what position you play, because I want to know. If this video opened your eyes to something you've been missing, subscribe, because every single week we break down the habits and systems that turn good players into dangerous ones.